everybody, welcome back to another Overwatch League Pick'em video. I'm back here with Rudd, and this past week pulled off a lot of really surprising matches for both the East and West region. What are your thoughts on the East region this week?
So I think we now know our top dog in the East region, uh, which before this week we were kind of debating around like two teams, which was the Dynasty and Spark. But I think now, especially on Sunday, we got our answer, and it's not looking really good for the Spark. Getting 3-0'd by the best team, not only shows that you have a ways to go before you're going to be considered number one, but they also had another hiccup this week against the Fusion, which was surprising considering the Fusion's performance uh, weeks prior. So I wasn't expecting that. So Spark definitely need to step it up a bit for the tournament, or they're just gonna be knocked out round one
Like they did
like
last
last
time,
year.
yeah.
Yeah,
And another team that did the complete opposite was the Shanghai Dragons. An absolute magnificent performance by the Dragons this week. Something that not a lot of people probably predicted. I know I didn't. As you can see by my predictions, I predicted them losing both of their games this week. They look really dominant. This was the Shanghai that we expected, and it was just kind of like, all right, yeah, Shanghai. They'll it takes them a little while to find their comp now, which kind of sucks. But hey, we got a lot of play with both Void and Fearless, which was nice to see as well.
Fate.
Fate, yeah. I don't know why I was saying Fearless. Mainly because they pulled off what Dallas did, which Dallas has Fearless and they also use Fearless. But
If they sell at Fearless, it'd be pretty good right now.
yeah, I think Shanghai probably wouldn't have even had that hiccup the first week of the tournament. But Shanghai had an absolute dominant performance. And it's just kind of like what we expect from the Dragons is that they're able to pull off these dominant matches, which is something that we didn't see last week. But it's glad to see that they're finally back. But moving on, the West region, a team that really surprised me this week, and I think surprised just about everybody, was the New York Excelsior. Absolute stunning performance in that match against Dallas. I legitimately thought that they were gonna win this. I I don't know how they fumbled it so hard on Ilios, but man, it was such a dominant matchup between those two. When Nixel was on top, they were absolutely dominating. And when Dallas was winning, it was still a very close game, regardless. What were your
Yeah.
thoughts on that match?
On that match, I didn't really catch most of it because I was working, but a match I did catch was the Rain and the Outlaws. You know, it was pretty close that match. I'm not gonna lie, but in the end, we figured out. Houston won, and now the Houston are above the Rain now,
Yeah, Houston
which
clinches
I
that
think
fifth seed, but
it
it's not
says a lot.
confirmed.
It is not confirmed, but you know, they were definitely an underdog, and a lot of people were stating, Atlanta's this top team. Atlanta was pretty much rated top three by everyone, and now they got taken down. So really, that top three spot could be clinched by anyone. London,
Yeah,
maybe.
it would be really nice to see London do it because I mean they're another team that did really well this week. But that's not what we're looking for. Looking to check out anymore. We want to move on to this week's predictions. Uh, First up, we have Houston in New York on Friday.
Or, oh, do you want to go on? We usually do APEC first.
Yeah, we'll do a yeah we can do APAC. So starting off the weekend, we have the Guangzhou Charge versus the Philadelphia Fusion. Uh, what kind of Philly Fusion are we going to be seeing this week?
Well, definitely want to beat the charge. Let's be honest.
Will it?
Yes, it will. Okay, it's like the taking the inconsistent team and you take the bad team, the inconsistent team's always going to win because no matter how inconsistent. Okay, well,
Yeah.
you can't be inconsistent enough to lose to the Charge, but that's on a very like this Phillies squad isn't inconsistent. They're just okay. They are inconsistent, but they just struggle to find their place. But they're just better, and they're just in a better place than Charge right now. Let's be honest. Charge losing Eileen, one of their best players this year, it's really hurting them right now. So it's probably just going to be a sweep for Fusion. Cause
Yeah, and
unless Charge.
another thing to put into account is last week was double push for APAC. This week it's double control. So I don't know how much of that kind of affects, but I do agree that Philly is going to win. My question was more so just how inconsistent are they going to be, and how many maps are they going to give the Charge?
They did win against Spark, which is a pretty good win.
Which we were also seeing a very poor version of Spark last week.
They're
But
still an
regardless,
inconsistent Spark. The Spark's still Spark, and they're
yeah,
a decent
regardless,
team.
I do think that Philly are going to win. I think that it's just a matter of can Guangzhou take a map or two. I think it's possible, but I think the safer pick is just go 3-0.
Yeah. So now we have the Shanghai Dragons and the Chengdu Hunters, a match that always seems to catch people off guard at least once a year. But will it do it again?
I think so, but I think it would still stick a status quo of Shanghai winning. I mean, Chengdu definitely can take games off of Shanghai. It's been done in the past, but we also have to think Shanghai is finally caught their groove, and they definitely are able to perform again. Chengdu also had a pretty decent performance last week. They did beat the LA Valiant, which granted isn't a great thing to say, but they also beat the Charge, which again, not a really big accomplishment, especially since they lost a map to the Charge. So it's
But still win.
definitely up in the air.
I think we're gonna get a decent game from these two. I think it's probably gonna be like a map 5, but like Shanghai's probably gonna win. And it's probably mostly gonna be in Shanghai's control. I feel.
Yeah, I do definitely think that Shanghai have it. I but I am gonna say it is gonna go to a map 5 just because these two like to really have those long drawn out games, and they are just. I think that there's a like the if you want to give a team like two teams that always have really good matches, it's Shanghai and Chengdu. So I think regardless, this is probably going to be the most exciting match of the weekend.
Plus, considering how the good hunters are looking, seems alright.
So next
But
up
no,
we have the LA Valiant and the Seoul Dynasty. Seoul dominant performance last week. Valiant not so much. What are your thoughts on this match?
Seoul right now is kind of a bulldozer right now. Just kind of running through APAC all that they can. Now that they don't have to face Shanghai anymore and like any teeth crunchers or anything. Yeah, they can just kind of blow right through anyone else that isn't Shanghai at this moment. Chengdu, they can hiccup to, but they don't have to face Chengdu either. So I think Seoul's just going to sweep through anyone that isn't Chengdu or Dragons right now.
Yeah, as much as I do have hopes for the Valiant to start picking up consistent victories, against Seoul, that's just not going to happen. I do think that is going to be I'll give Valiant a map. I think that they definitely can take a fight to this Dynasty squad just because the Valiant are a surprisingly decent team this year, and I think that they have what it takes to take somewhat close games to top teams. That in control is one of their strong suits, so I do think that Valiant can take control at least. So now on to Chengdu and Hangzhou. Another game that I think could be really interesting, honestly. So
Yeah, well, Chengdu Hunters and Spark. Well, do we get to see a better version of Spark than last year? But
last week,
maybe, or yeah, last week. Sorry, maybe not. But I think even at Spark's good stage, I think the Hunters could probably manage it. So I do think I'm actually going to say the Hunters are probably going to win this one. When it all depends on which Spark we see, and I think we're probably going to see a bit of a better Spark than last week. So I think it's probably going to be another map 5. So that's why I think it's going to be a Hunters victory over the Spark, but in a close map 5 series.
so I gotta disagree with you because I do think that while Chengdu is an exciting team and they definitely have some really strong pieces, this Spark squad is just really good. I think that even though they had that hiccup last week, we've seen it twice already this stage. Even the top teams that have really poor performances on a week can easily just come back and sweep the entire week that they have, and I think Spark can do that. However, I am gonna give the Hunters benefit of doubt and give them a map against the Spark. But overall, I do think that the Spark are just such a strong unit compared to the Chengdu Hunters. I don't think we need to talk about this game. Uh, Shanghai 3-0's Guangzhou. Not anything else that we could really expect.
Best team versus probably the worst team. And not the worst team in the league, maybe? They could probably be, I don't know, Vancouver. But Vancouver's starting to be on the rise,
You
so
know,
charge.
I wouldn't give them a victory over Vancouver. I'm gonna be honest.
Uh,
I would give Vancouver that game pretty handily.
That would
Uh,
be the event, you know.
but here we
That's going to
are.
be their own.
Here we are with a bit of a brain scratcher. Is Philly versus Seoul? Again, Philly a really inconsistent team, but we could easily see Fusion take this as a 3-0 sweep. We could see Seoul take it as a 3-0 sweep, or we could see this be heavily contested both ways.
Yeah, I think no matter what version of Philly they bring, it's probably going to be swept by the Dynasty. Because, again, it's, if it ain't Dragons or Hunters, Seal will just kind of know what to do. You know, they have their comp, and it seems to be like one of the best comps in APAC right now. And that's kind of the safe pick right now, since Fusion is, like you said, an inconsistent team. So I kind of just have to give it a 3-0 to Dynasty.
I am gonna give this to the Dynasty. However, I think that Philly can definitely take it close, and I'm gonna say that it's gonna be a heavily contested game. And I think it's gonna come down to push, if not either hybrid or escort. It's just gonna be one of those maps. I think, regardless, like one of these teams are gonna be able to absolutely bowl over on control, which likely would be the Dynasty in this case. But I think that this could be a heavily contested game. Both teams are have really strong pieces. Philly sometimes they have really strong players, and sometimes they don't. So really, I think it just kind of comes down to what kind of version of Philly we see, and likely my predictions are going to change based on how they perform against Charge earlier in the week. To close out Apex weekend, though, we have the Hangzhou Spark versus the LA Valiant. This honestly is a little difficult for me to predict.
Difficult for me. I think Spark, even at an inconsistent uh, time, they still have the pieces to take on this Valiant team. And I think the Valiant are going to be a bit competitive. That's why I'm giving them a map. But I think Spark is probably going to win this, and then they're safe bet.
Yeah, I do think that Spark are gonna win this. Especially since, like as I stated with their Hunters match, we've seen teams come and have really poor performances one week and then absolutely dominate the next. And I do see that coming from the Spark. However, I don't see it being too dominant. I think that Valiant again, like I said with their Seal match, control is definitely one of their strong suits. So I do definitely see them at least taking control, maybe hybrid. But I think that they could definitely take it to the Spark on control. Even though I do think that they will fall short in the end. On to West Region though. Houston is going to be going up to New York Excelsior. Basically, the only thing that Nixel's going to be playing for this week is to mess around with positioning of the seeds in this match. Their final game against Boston this week really has no implications. I don't even get why that's being performed this week, but whatever. Vancouver, not Vancouver. I was looking at the Houston at the Washington Vancouver match. But Houston and Nixel. Houston has this. I don't even really see Nixel doing very
Be
well.
sure. We did see the map. We did see the trap game that Dallas had to play.
Yeah, but we did also see that Dallas was playing very poorly throughout a lot of that. So I think that it was more so just Dallas kind of fumbling a little bit rather than Nixel coming out really strong. That regardless, Houston is such a different team compared to Dallas. I wouldn't even compare the two, other than the fact that they're both from Texas. But Houston is just such a aggressive team, especially when they have Dante playing on tank. Being able to play that Doomte is just absolutely something that almost no team is playing right now. At least to the degree that the Outlaws are playing it. So I definitely think that Houston are going to have a huge upper hand against this Nixel team. And I'm actually going to go 3-0.
I mean, Outlaws have to play 2 games this week. Well, I mean, they have to play one against Boston, but I think that could come into Nixel's advantage here. I mean, Dallas, they didn't even have anyone else to play but the Excelsior. They slipped up that much against them. So, you know, 2 teams, I'd say Boston and New York, have kind of different play styles, and maybe New York can use their kind of like facade as a low tier team. Maybe they finally found their footing. Maybe they finally have that Gangnam Jin and Myungbung just god tier flex comp that, or support comp that we thought that was gonna happen. But now, yeah, anything's possible, and that's why I'm giving a map 5 win to Outlaws. I'm not gonna say Nixel's gonna win. That's very foolish. But, what's the harm in putting them at 5? If I still
Not
think
getting that
Outlaws.
beautiful 3 points.
Well,
Next up, you have
they
the
could
Toronto
just get
Defiant
one.
versus the San Francisco Shock. I mean, really, Toronto's not going to win. Although,
Well, they took
it'd
a
be
map. No,
really funny to see Toronto do it.
it would. It'd be
To see
hilarious.
Toronto be the one in 10-1. Like, that is just an
11-1.
idea. That'd be beautiful. However, that's not going to happen. Just a matter, though, how many maps will Toronto take?
What's 0 times infinity?
0.
That's how many maps they're gonna take.
Yeah. Atlanta versus Paris. I mean, again, as much as I am a simp for Dove, the Paris proved last week they really, the only reason they won that game, or their game in week 1, was mostly just off the fact that they had the surprise factor with Dove, and just now they just really haven't been able to perform. And I don't see that happening. I don't see that changing going into this week.
But they did have that, map 5 against Toronto. Ooh. But that doesn't change anything. I still think it's
Toronto.
Yeah. It's not no Dallas or
The
anything.
only reason that they're in this tournament is because of the fact that the other teams below them suck just a little bit more.
Yeah, I think they're just, they're still in the upper echelon, and that's something I think Paris is not ready to handle.
But on the topic of teams that are just a little bit worse than the Defiant, Vancouver and Washington Justice, two teams that are slightly worse than Toronto Defiant.
Oh, who would guess?
Yeah, uh, I kind of want to be
Now
really funny and say that Vancouver can win this, especially since Justice is just honestly not a very good team. But neither
they're
is
not a
Vancouver.
very good team, but that doesn't make the Justice is gonna win this. I don't think Titans are ready.
But Vancouver has Deepay.
They
Coach
have
Deepay, bro.
DP.
Come on, Coach Deepay.
Listen, Titans will like roll. I'm just saying Titans will roll next tournament, but they're not ready for this tournament. I think they've shown that every time. I mean, every time they've gotten 3-0, they haven't even looked. I know everyone says, "Oh, it's a spy." Oh, they got signs of life. We say that every time about every team that goes winless. We say that every time. Like it's time for them to start showing. It's time for them to start going map fives, which I think definitely could happen in this Justice game. Now that both these teams are kind of you know at kind of a low point.
And Vancouver
You know,
got that Deepay diff, you know?
yeah. I mean, coaching probably goes to Vancouver, but I think the players on Justice are just so much better.
Yeah. I
I
do
could
think that
definitely see it
Vancouver is
going
going to
like.
lose this. I don't see them
I
winning
think
against
I
Justice.
think the only way they win is like if it's like a map 5, and then like they switch out like Decay for Assassin, even though Decay was working, which they do every single game, and it's terrible. It doesn't work, and they've done it every single time. This is why the Justice always lose, and it's so obvious to see. Why just hire like literally any random Twitter user that says that. They're gonna be so much better than what the actual coaches they have. I can't believe I used to like praise Supreme as like a good coach back in the day, but like now the way he's running the team is just so bonkers.
Yeah. Uh, I do see that happening. That's the sad part. I really do see that happening for Justice.
Yeah, they're
Will
gonna.
it happen? Not very likely. The more likely thing is that Vancouver's going to lose 3-0 to Justice. But there is that possibility that they could just switch out Decay for Assassin and it just never bring him back in. And it just not work. Which is also a
Yeah,
very Justice thing to do. So, really, this could go any way possible.
it could go any way possible. I mean, they finally do have that vigilante now. I
Yeah,
mean,
they do have Vigilante now.
he's not the like breakout support I expected he was. To be fair, I don't know why. That was just kind of copium, but at this point, like Justice need to do something. They need to actually like they just need to switch coaching styles right now, or get a new coaching staff because it's like the 2020 Houston Outlaws. They had some decent. I don't know. Let's just move on. If I talk about this more, I'm gonna ramble for like hours and hours.
So Houston, they're going up against the Boston
Houston, yeah.
Uprising.
Latourette Bull, uh, of the 2020 best
I
match
mean, Houston
of
wasn't bad
Overwatch.
last year.
No, of
They forced.
2020, not 2021.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, but Houston forced the Kings to bend the knee, bro. They're the team that beat the Shock week 1. Like
They were
they're
also
the
move
reason
away,
why
drink them.
that opening weekend was so amazing. Like it gave me my copium for this Houston squad. And I
Uh,
still do have that
I like.
copium. I think they're gonna 3-0 the Boston Uprising as well.
I'll give them lots of numbers on a map, maybe. I don't know, something about a
I
map.
wouldn't even give Boston a map.
I like to
Boston.
see Boston. They're gonna get a map. They're gonna get a map. I got it. They're gonna get a map. On the map. On the map. On the map. That's the map. They're gonna get one. I think so. I think they're gonna get a map. Don't you? You don't, but I
A
think they're gonna.
team that I think that's gonna take a map is the Florida Mayhem in their match against the LA Gladiators. 3-1 for the Glads. Uh, Florida isn't looking too strong this tournament. I think it might be because they don't have Adam anymore. No Adam,
No,
no win, and I think that's gonna stay that
yeah.
way.
I think no, I don't know map, but that's just me.
I think Florida really needs an off tank player, and they did until they got rid of him. R.I.P. Adam.
They could just place checkmate on one. For
Yeah,
real.
they could move checkmate over to that tank role, even though they don't have
I mean,
another
just do
DPS role to
XE
sit
Hyd.
there.
Yeah, just
Oh
do
yeah, they
XE
do.
Hydron
Yeah, Xe
and
Hydron and
then
then checkmate on
checkmate.
tank. You know, it works for Houston. It can work for Florida. That is what we need. If that happens, Florida's taking this 3-0. But if not, 3-1.
Yeah, checkmate on tank with XG Hydron DBS. Like that's gonna be easy 3-0 sweep for Florida Mayhem.
Dallas and London. I think this is gonna guarantee who's gonna be second seed.
I didn't even see this match. This one sounds like a banger.
It does really sound like a banger. And I think here's where my hot take of the week is going to come in. Because we saw last week, Dallas went map 5 against this New York Excelsior, right? Here we are entering this week. Let's say Dallas performs the same way they did against New York against London. There is no chance that Dallas will beat the London team. This is just. London is looking absolutely dominant right now. Last week they looked amazing. Even though they didn't have the closest of games, they did beat Paris, but they also went map 5 against Justice.
Yeah. They beat one of the worst teams, but then lost to, or not lost, but went map 5 to like the better of the worst teams.
Yeah. And New York went, not New York, but Dallas went map 5 against probably the second worst team in NA. While London went map 5 against probably the gatekeeper of the middle tier, honestly, in the Justice. I think that just kind of shows in this meta who really has the power here, and I think that is the London Spitfire. It's just a matter of.
Is it really a hot take to call London the winner? I don't think so.
I do think that's a hot take to call London the winner, especially since Dallas is just such a dominant team.
Not after Fuel's performance last week.
Yeah,
I think
not so much
so
with
take
Dallas.
that consideration. I think a lot more people are going to be picking Spitfire.
Yeah, I am getting into this London Spitfire. I think that it will go map 5, but I do think London has this. With Chadi and Paco, this team is just looking so good. And Dallas... Go on.
London Spitfire, they've just kind of shown that they are flexible now. Fuel are just really good on like one comp every season, and they stick to that comp, and they're either really dominant or some team figures them out. I think but London is different. London has their bread and butter that basically they're as good as that as Fuel is on their comp, but they can also swap over to the Sigma. They can swap over to Diva with Popo when they can stuff them in. That's just why I think they're gonna win.
Yeah, London I think is gonna secure that second seed here. I think they're gonna beat Dallas and go to instead of fourth seed to second seed, which is something I never expected to say after season 1. Like
especially a lossless stage. Like they won all their games this stage or this tournament.
Not particularly a golden stage, but definitely
not the golden stage.
Definitely a silver stage, I gotta say. Going 6-0? This stage, yeah.
They haven't lost a map yet.
They've lost maps.
Or not a map, a game.
I know, I wish I could forget that Justice match myself. And to end out the weekend, the most pointless match, the New York Excelsior, the Boston Uprising.
Hey, it's not pointless. You got double points.
That's the only weight this game holds. Is will you get double points on this game? I gotta give it to Nixel. Like, I'm just gonna be honest.
Say bye to your double points, honestly.
I think it just comes down to how Nixel performs on Friday. As well as how Boston performs on Saturday. Both these teams are going to be facing the Houston Outlaws. So I think that my final prediction will just come down to who performs better against this Outlaw squad. And personally myself, I see Nixel performing a lot better. While both have while I have both of these teams going 3-0 against the Houston Outlaws, I do see it being a lot closer on Nixel's part. Boston has just not been able to show that they have what it takes. And now, don't get me wrong, I do see it being a very close game between these two, regardless. But I just think that Nixel has finally found their footing, and I think that they're going to be able to kind of take on these lower tier teams as well. To close games, if not winning these games flat out. And that's how I see this end of this weekend going.
I think that. I mean, I think honestly, I think the support line from Boston is honestly kind of better than Nixels is, even though like Myungmun Gang Nanjin is like a really good one. The last that Mayhem game, the supports are popping off. Valentine was popping off. Everyone, or I would say everyone on that team, but most of the people on that team were doing really good. And so I just think they need to rely. They just need better synergy. Boston does. I think they get better synergy and better team play. This team is like golden. This team could probably take some maps off the better teams. You know, they could probably do a lot more like that map 5 of the rain they had if they just had the better just team synergy. And so I think, but like they don't need team synergy to beat Nixel because they could probably just rely on their playmakers, like their supports and their Valentine. Valentine would probably just run over the DPS line of Nixels. So I just think Boston has this game at least.
I think regardless, it just kind of comes down to their performances against Houston for me to finally to concretely say what I think about New York and Boston for this match. But I think that it could go either way. Honestly, I think New York is finally picking up like some kind of meta here. It's a little late, just a little bit, but at least they finally found something and they're actually able to play some matches. Uh, but I think they can take this match. If not, I think it's still gonna be very close regardless. So that does do it for the pick'ems. So I don't exactly know how my final top four looks. Because all 8 teams are confirmed for the tournament. There is no switching out for West region, and I don't think there is for East region either. I think all the teams for both regions are clinched. Nobody can be knocked out at this point. So, looking at my predictions, I do think that I don't necessarily know how much my numbers are changing, but I guess we could just wait to the predictions, not predictions, but bracket making portion after the end of Nixel Boston and see how the midseason madness bracket looks. Any last thoughts?
Well, I'm gonna be excited for post show on Sunday.
I think this might be like one of the best post shows that we could see here. Especially since there's high likability that London is going to be going into the.
Yeah, they're likely gonna be. Yeah, they're likely gonna be picking their opponents this time too.
I mean, I don't think they would because I think they might either move up to. They're either going to move up to third place or stick to fourth. Which, if they're fourth, they're not picking their opponents. But
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, but if they're third, they will get to pick between either the last two, which I hope they're third, but I don't know. I don't know if they have the chance to be third.
Yeah,
they might.
I think their shot at third is beating Dallas. In which then, I think for me with my predictions, first place is going to be Shock. Second place will be I want to say the London Spitfire, and then third place is the Gladiators, and fourth place is the Dallas Fuel. If not, switch London and LA. So definitely potential for London to pick their match, which is something that again nobody expected. I think from this season. I think looking at the squad day one, everyone was like, "Man, London really is gonna suck." So who knows? This week has a lot of weight, even though all teams are clinched. It's just a matter of where seeding is, and for your double points. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.